They're back. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, yo, welcome into the CHGO White Sox postgame show presented by PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. Welcome into Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm Sean Anderson, the host of the CHGO White Sox postgame show. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. And alongside me, as always, is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
Herbie Sunshine. You can follow him on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. We'll be joined by Vinnie Duber from Guaranteed Rate Field a little bit later on in the show. And you can follow Vinnie on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. The White Sox do win tonight. They win 4-2, and like I said, Herb, they're back, baby. You know, after going 2-9 in their last 11, Miguel Cairo said they needed to win this one for Tony. Here you go. They got to win.
I mean, you got the big bastard on the bump doing what he does, and the White Sox finally, well, yesterday they did too, but hitting the ball over the fence feels good. Elvis Andrus hitting that ball over the fence, and then Pollock before that hitting the ball over the fence, and the White Sox played a pretty much flawless game. They played a game, maybe not the one we thought they would play, but a clean game versus these Kansas City Royals, and showed them who's better tonight.
And we went with Jose Abreu and Eloy Jimenez, and of course the 2 hitting home runs for the Sox, Elvis Andrus and A.J. Pollock. And of course Elvis Andrus is the one blasting at 430. Looking like a home run derby shot on that one off Chris Bubic.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's good to get a victory off of Chris Bubic, but also perplexed us for innings on innings. I was like, are we going to be the White Sox again versus this bum again? But no, they finally broke out, and you had the big bastard shove like he should. The only blemish on his mark was that blast. Speaking about blast, that Bobby Witt Jr. is a problem.
He's an issue.
This whole Royals thing is a problem. They're got only power-hitting young players. Him, the Prado guy, Vinnie Pasquantino, he's fucking good. MJ Melendez, and their veteran is like 31 years old. Right. And I'm glad Salvi Perez sat out tonight because he probably would have hit a ball over the fence too.
Probably. I don't know what his numbers are versus Lance Lynn, especially him being such a heavy, dominant fastball guy. But yeah,
if it's in the zone, he's going to be swinging at it.
Right. Even if he's outside of the zone. I mean, Lucas Giolito threw one in the lefty batter box yesterday, and he took it out. I hate pitching that guy.
Yeah, and I thought there was a stat that somebody put out there. I don't know if it was Kamka or one of the people at a national stats place, that ball that Salvi Perez hit out yesterday was the farthest ball outside the zone hit for a home run this year. Damn,
I did not know that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a ridiculous swing. Anything above the belt and that he can extend his arms on will probably be a home run. And here's the bad news for White Sox fans. Salvi Perez still has 3 more years on his contract and a club option in 2026. So you might be seeing 4 more years of Salvi Perez in a Royals uniform. And especially, like you said, Bobby Witt, MJ Melendez, Vinnie Pasquantino.
I haven't even talked about the middle infielders. I mean, Nicky Lopez had a good year last year, and we see what Michael Massey does, pride of Illinois. No other school in Illinois.
Yeah, right.
U of I.
Well, especially when he's fielding a bases-loaded ground ball and doesn't, realize, hey, I could go home for the force out.
Yeah, he could have. Huh? I mean, that's Brother Rice education for you.
Hey, knock it off here.
Oh, yeah, I forgot he went to Brother Rice until I have something dubious to talk about.
At least the most, relaxing thing to see about the Royals is Prado and Massey are their top 2 of their top 3 prospects. So you don't have too much worry that they're going to have some other like Julio Rodriguez character coming up from the minor leagues. Their number 1 prospect's Gavin Cross. He is 21 years old, an outfielder, but his ETA isn't until 2025. So we still got about 3 years until Gavin Cross is giving us an issue. And their 8th prospect, Drew Waters, is up, but he hasn't made too much of an impact for them just yet. The White Sox win 4-2, and mainly it's because of Lance Lynn and his big bastardness. Let's talk about the pitching lines from today's game. Lance Lynn went 7 innings, allowing 4 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, and 8 Ks. Chris Bubic, 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 4 walks, and 1 K for Bubic. Before we get into him, Lance Lynn was pretty damn big bastardy today, looking like the old Lance Lynn, the 2021 Lance Lynn tonight.
Yeah, and usually, the fastball is dominant. And it was today. People were missing on outside fastballs, like cutters just are on the outside corner, especially versus left-handers. But that one inning, I forgot who he struck out specifically, but he was using his curveball almost exclusively, and it looks like a slurve, like a slider curve, and the arc of the pitch, it has more horizontal than vertical break. So I was like, is that a slider? And you looked it up. You're like, that's probably his curve, but today he's using it more like a slider, and it was very effective. He was doing it from the inside corner of a right-hander. It would look like it would be hitting there, and then it would be tailing off to the left side of the batter's box in the strike zone, and he was just on his game. I've been very encouraged, and you showed the stats before the game. I think his last 8 starts or 7 starts, he's been sub-3 ERA, giving up solo home runs for the most part. This is his 9th home run in these 8 starts, but a solo shot, and that's all he's given up. I had no problem with him getting replaced by Kendall Graveman in the 8th inning. I would have been fine with him coming out, but Miguel Cairo decided to go to his big-time setup guy, and he got the job done in the 8th inning, and then the one run by Ken Hendricks in the 9th inning. He's been kind of shaky lately, but I think that's mostly because of rust. He hasn't been pitching a lot because the White Sox have been struggling a lot lately.
Right, and I mean, it's just one run, and it was 2 out, triple by Michael A. Taylor, which then was kicked around in right field as well. I mean, I feel like that ball should have got in a lot quicker. So the White Sox defense kind of letting down Liam Hendricks there.
Was it Gavin Sheets in the 9th inning?
I believe so.
Yeah, I mean, he made that nice diving catch to help Lance Lynn, I think, in the 6th inning, so he gets a reprieve there because he made a good catch from making up from that terrible slide yesterday and then kicking the ball into center field. He's a first baseman, so we need to address that in the outfield. In the offseason, so he either goes back to first base or as a designated hitter or off this team. Because, his right field is not as atrocious as Mr. Vaughn's, but it's still not great.
Yeah, one of the 4 probably needs to go, whether it be Gavin Sheets, Andrew Vaughn, Eloy Jimenez, or Jose Abreu. What are you looking at here?
I said Kyle Hendricks, and you said Vinnie La Russa.
That's true. And, hey, Paul Correct got blocked by Steve Stone tonight, so hats off to you, Paul Correct, for talking shit about Steve Stone and immediately getting that block button. Proud of you for that one. Ken Hines asking, why did Hendricks get the save? Because there was a 3-run deficit in the 9th inning, and he got 3 outs. Yeah. Basically it. I don't understand the question.
Yeah, it's either, you come in the game when your team is up 3 runs or less, or at least has a lead, you get the save. Or if the tying runs on deck, you get the save, and you close out the game.
If you throw the last 3 innings of any game.
Correct.
So those are the 3 ways that you can get a save. Lance Lynn, in his last 8 games, 48 1/3 innings pitched, 14 earned runs, and let's just do some quick math because I'm the math guy. 48 plus 8, 56. So in 48 1/3 innings, Lance Lynn in the past 8 games has 56 strikeouts. So he's been absolutely phenomenal for the Sox. And you mentioned that curveball usage. I think it's been something interesting seeing Lance kind of bust this out because the velocity hasn't been there. So he kind of needed to incorporate another pitch, kind of like we've seen Johnny Cueto. Mm-hmm. Johnny Cueto's been a guy that can rely on any pitch at any moment, be a guy of 5 pitches, kind of throw them on shuffle. And Lance Lynn, I think, kind of has embraced that a bit with his diminished velocity. If we can go to the pitch mix here for Lance Lynn and look at what he threw today, it was very varied. He threw the four-seam fastball, the cutter, the curveball, the third most, which I think is probably pretty shocking. He's mainly four-seam fastball, cutter, sinker, but he goes four-seam fastball, cutter, curveball, sinker, change, and slider today. So he's busting out 6 pitches, trying to keep guys off balance, not really messing with his timing like Johnny Cueto does, but able to pull from a deep bag of tricks. And the main thing that sticks out for me, 30 called strikes plus whiff, a called strike whiff percentage of 33%. Major league average is 27%. Lance Lynn knows how to dominate a strike zone. He's not going to mess around. He's not going to nibble. He's not going to walk guys. It's something I really, really appreciate watching a healthy Lance Lynn. I know a lot of people were discouraged from the way he started this year. But with the long layoff, with his injury, I think that he's shown you that the ramp up has been completed. He is fully ready to go. And in his last, I think, 9 starts, 8 of them have had 6+ Ks. So he is kind of finding that dominant stretch of his season. And we talked about this as a positive. Lance Lynn kind of having that slow start to his season might have more in the tank to give to this rotation. He might be a huge piece. Dylan Cease and Johnny Cueto have kind of carried this rotation for a large part of this year. Michael Kopech at points as well. But really, I mean, as long as Lance Lynn's able to stay healthy, I think that he'll have that gas that he didn't have last year to finish off this season strong and continue to be a horse for the Sox.
Yeah, and the 57% on the called strikes plus whiffs for that curveball is filthy. He only threw it 14 times. That is a very economical pitch. He brought it out when he needed it, and it looked like, I don't know what inning it was. I think it was maybe the 5th inning where he just needed to get guys out, and he threw like 5 in a row, and he was filthy with it. But Lance Lynn, at this point where it seems like he's building up the strength, his velocity seems decent now, and mixing in pitches, the slider, only one slider today, it's just very weird. But I'm saying that curveball has slider-like tendencies, and it was baffling Kansas City Royals hitters all throughout that inning. And if Lance Lynn is this, he might jump Johnny Cueto as our number 2, and, you know, we're 5 games out, and so we're very discouraged, and this might be all for naught. More likely, it's all for naught. Lance Lynn just having a strong second half just to pitch up until October 6th and then say goodbye. But if the White Sox find a way to get into this fucking tournament, Lance Lynn's going to be a big-time part of that, and he's going to shove in the October season.
Unless they play the Astros, because then I don't want to see Lance Lynn up against the Astros. Jared,
I'm a roll dice. I mean, I would love to see the Astros.
I would love to see the Astros.
That would be the greatest thing in the world, because that would mean the White Sox would at least get to the ALDS.
You're not wrong. A couple questions here. Chi-Town fanboy saying, am I the only one that noticed Lynn squatting between pitches and grimacing? We kind of noticed that in the 5th inning. I think it was exactly when you're talking about. He threw a curveball to Prado and then 4 straight to Michael A. Taylor, and then he ended up lining out to Pollock in center field. It seemed like it was a weird finish, but I'm not sure.
You called it off. Like right when he finished, he's like, "Oh, he landed weird," and he kind of did he finished his pitch and finished his motion all the way, but it looked herky and jerky, and I was like, it didn't look correct, but he didn't see him. He came back out for the next inning, so he was fine. But 91 pitches, they decided to take him out for the 8th inning, and I thought it was all right move.
Yeah, I think it was an all right move, and I think too, when we went back and saw it, it felt more like he was kind of finishing his motion more. Yeah. It just kind of felt like it was more of a deliberate way to finish his motion, so I'm not entirely sure what was going on with Lynn. We'll see if Vinny has any update or if he says anything about his back, but what we know from Vinny about Lance Lynn is the guy's not too talkative after games, wins or losses.
You want to talk about Herbie Sunshine? It's Alex Rude Sunshine. Look at that. That's why he added these pitches, Sean. Getting killed by the Astros, not because of Cueto.
Lance Lynn has thrown a curveball his entire career. Knock it off, Alex. Nope. I think that you've seen the curveball increase the more and more he is pitched this year. I think. So I could be wrong.
You're probably wrong. I mean,
we'll have a little nerd off between Alex and I.
I trust Alex Rude.
I don't.
Slightly more than you.
Really?
Just slightly more.
We're teammates.
He's like an accountant. He knows numbers.
My mom's
and
an accountant. Does that help?
You don't get it by birth. It's not genetic.
It's not like Shelley and Dave Duncan.
No, I would be a good cook then.
Ability to pitch.
And I'm not.
Is your mom a good cook?
Oh, the best. This right here.
She made you.
This is what created it. Yeah.
Body by Linda.
Yeah.
Looking at Lance Lynn's start this year, he started off using the curveball at 9%, but then after the July 6th date, it dropped off to around 3%, and then it started to kick back up around July 29th to 5%, and then basically since August, it's been above 9%. It did take a dip on August 19th to 3.2, but it was at 15% today, or 15%, in his last start, and then today, what was it at, Steven?
14, I believe.
He used 14
pitches. I think it was almost at 14%.
Okay, so about 14%. So, 15%. So, I mean, similar usage. There has been an increase this year. I'm not sure exactly what. I don't think it's because of the Astros. I think that's too,
You don't think Lance Lynn has a designs on playing the Astros again and getting this bugaboo out of his back.
But he'd be working on his curveball because of that. Like I don't know. I find it odd that he'd be doing it just for the Astros. Because, I mean, he didn't have the Astros on his schedule.
No, I'm thinking that Lance Lynn was thinking at the beginning of the year in the offseason, hey, you know what? The Astros have my number. Why do they have my number? I'm throwing a bunch of fastballs, and they just tee off on me. Let me throw something in the mix. Let me increase my usage of my curveball. And that's not a typical 12-6. Like I said, it's got a little hook to it, so it's more of a slurve. And so, like Alex says, yeah, you don't think that the lasting image of the season, having your fastballs get killed by the Astros, isn't motivation enough to work on your breaking stuff so you can switch up to the pitch mix?
But what I would say to that then is, why wouldn't he be using his slider more? I just think that is a better pitch, because what we know about breaking balls in this day, anything over 85 mile per hour breaking ball wise is a effective breaking ball pitch. His slider is basically closer to average compared to his curveball. You look at his slider compared to average movement, minus 0.7 on his slider vertical movement and minus 1.6 on his horizontal movement. His curveball minus 5.6 inches, minus 5.6 average inches against the average. So his pitch moves 5.6% less vertically, his curveball, compared to the major league average, and about minus 8% vertically. So, I mean, his slider is, I think, a better pitch.
And I have no data to back this up, but I'm sure that cutter and the curveball work well together, being as the cutter usually is using versus left-handers. He's keeping it outside the zone on the outside, like in the right-handed batter's box, and then the sliders or the curveballs coming into you. And so out the same tunneling vision, you'll say, okay, that looks like a cutter, but it comes 81 miles per hour, and you're way in front of it, and you're swinging over the top of it if you're a left-handed guy.
Yeah.
Which the Astros have a bunch of.
Yeah. He didn't use the slider much last year. He used the curveball more. He didn't actually throw the slider last year. I don't know.
I mean, as Alex said, yeah, you see your pitches getting hit, and you tell people keep on saying you can't pitch versus the Astros because you suck. Why do you suck in particular versus that team? That team is a good hitting team in general, and all over his fastball. So I got to throw a little monkey in that wrench, and maybe he's using it and working it out a little bit greater tonight. You said it was like 3%, then increased up to 9%. Now it's 15%. Now he wants to put this into people's minds. Hey, I got this curveball for y'all. Y'all better not be teeing off on my fastball. Don't just sit there for the slider or the cutter or the sinker. You won't get that curveball in your hand, and you're going to be striking out a lot.
Well, and I want to go up to Jared, because I think it's an interesting question. It's a little bit up right there. Not sure what to make of Lynn this season. The recent sample size is great and all, but should we recognize the team he's pitching against too? So that 8-game sample size that we've talked about, 3 against Kansas City, 2 against Cleveland, 1 against Detroit, 1 against Oakland, and 1 against Baltimore. I hear the point, but in his other starts, his first 7 starts, he played Minnesota twice, Cleveland once, San Francisco, Baltimore, Toronto, and Detroit. Nope. So Baltimore and Detroit overlapped. He played Cleveland already. He played, and then, he didn't face Minnesota just yet. So really the only difference there, Toronto, Minnesota, San Francisco. I don't know if it really plays too much into a factor, especially him coming off a back injury.
And we've seen White Sox pitchers who have come back, Giolito or other pitchers who face subpar teams, get hit around a lot. So I know that the opponent is not awesome, and it's not like a team that is great, but the Kansas City Royals have done work versus the White Sox this year. And to shut them down, even though Salvi Perez wasn't in the lineup, is a pretty good trick he did today. I know that you want him to do this versus the Yankees and the Astros every time he goes out, but he can't. He can only face the teams who are in front of him. I think his next start will be versus Seattle. So, yeah, Seattle. They'll be on the road.
So it'll be a good test.
Yeah,
I mean that's a playoff team right now. So
in Seattle,
we'll see if he's able to repeat this. But even if he doesn't, I mean, he just gave you 9 decent starts in a row. I mean, he's kind of due for a break, I guess.
I mean, it'd be Seattle with a good start, and then Oakland. So let's see.
There you go.
With a huge fucking sidelines and out of play. Oh man, it's gonna be so great to play in Oakland. even though I hate playing in Oakland.
Well, and he's going to actually
Dark as hell.
he's going to lead off that series against Seattle on Labor Day against Marco Gonzalez. So it's going to go Lynn, Cueto, and then I guess Davis Martin. That's what it's currently listed. Davis Martin versus Luis Castillo. Wonder who's going to win that one. Probably the Seattle Mariners. Anyways, before we get too much into that, because I don't even know if Davis Martin's going to be on the team at that point. Let's go to the ninth inning, because I do think it was interesting with Liam here. I'm not too concerned about it, but the White Sox just closing out games. Even yesterday, 7 runs are scored, but the pitching is what is the downfall. You get 4 runs today. The pitching, obviously good. Lance Lynn, fantastic. Kendall Graveman wasn't as shaky as he has been. Liam giving up a run. But I don't know how you feel about the bullpen. We kind of had that little segment there. We were doing 5 positives and 5 negatives, and one of the 5 positives was the bullpen's filthy. But Jake Diekman in 9 innings, I think, has allowed 21 base runners. Liam's been a little bit shaky. Joe Kelly's been shaky as of late. Kendall Graveman's been up and down. How do you feel right now about the Sox bullpen?
I have faith in 4 guys. James Lambert, Kendall Graveman, Reynaldo Lopez, Liam Hendricks. That's pretty much it. Like, you can put, occasionally I feel good when Jose Ruiz is in the game, but, he had a nice, 14 games where he wasn't giving up anything, and games that were pretty much either won by a lot or lost by a lot. But he, in high leverage situations, I don't want him in there anymore. But Joe Kelly's been struggling. Like, he's had a nice spot, too, when he went, 11 games in a row where he was smooth. But we saw lately he's been just inconsistent. I don't know what's wrong with him this year. Maybe this was bound to happen with Joe Kelly. But 4 guys in that bullpen I trust. And who would have thought that I would have been like, man, Jimmy Lambert is the shit. Right? I want Jimmy Lambert in the game. Give me Jimmy Lambert now. Like yesterday, we were saying, hey, replace Lucas Giolito with Jimmy Lambert. I know they're going against left-handers. You were saying this. I know they're going against left-handers. Put Jimmy Lambert in the game instead of Tanner Banks. Put Tanner Banks in the game, and he did Tanner Banks things, and that's why Tanner Banks is in AAA today.
Well, and that's part of the reason why. What I wonder with was, did they just use Tanner Banks because he was going to AAA, and did they not want to use an arm that would have been on the team tomorrow? I'm not sure.
I mean, they need as much starting pitching as they can get down there in Charlotte. So if they would have did that, they had Tanner Banks extra work, they should be fired. Well, Miguel Cairo should be fired to use Tanner Banks just because he's going down the next day.
That guy could be given some, what's it called, leeway, because I think he's an inexperienced manager. Today was only his 4th game as a major league manager.
You know, he doesn't even get credit for these because he's not an interim. He's just the acting.
Yeah, we'll talk about it with Vinny. PointsBet Sportsbook is counting down the days until the football season with a new offer every day until the season kicks off. From now until September 8th, PointsBet's Power Hour will unlock a new daily offer from 12 to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Sign up for PointsBet now using code CHGO to also get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. And don't miss out on your chance to get daily access to free bets, boosted odds, and so much more now through September 8th. But that's not it. If you make a $51 or more first-time deposit, you receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from a CHGO locker. So download the PointsBet app today and use code CHGO to take advantage of this limited-time offer. Don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER for crisis counseling and referral services. You can use the PointsBet app for the first time, make that $51 deposit, get a free CHGO membership, read Vinnie Duber's articles on all CHGO, and get a shirt like Herb's wearing. Size C. We also got a brand new QB1 shirt for you CHGO Bears fans. And if you're looking to take care of yourself, our next partner has a product I use literally every day to take care of myself. Herb uses it every day. I started taking AG1s because they've been a longtime supporter of CHGO. They sent in free product when they first started as an advertiser, and I have been using it each and every month. It has a kind of mild tropical taste that I look forward to each and every morning. And with 1 delicious scoop of AG1, I absorb 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help me start my day right. It helps my gut health, my nervous system, my immune system, my ability to focus, my ability to have energy at 10:30 to talk about the White Sox at this point. All of the important things to help you make your day go the way you want it to. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, and Athletic Greens has over 7,002 5-star reviews, those extra 2 coming from Herb and I. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop, and It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for millions of different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/CHGO Socks. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/CHGO Socks to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Again, athleticgreens.com/CHGOSOX. Let's go out to Guaranteed Rate Field and talk to our CHGO White Sox beat writer, Vinnie Duber. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber, wearing the Tavern-style pizza shirt because he is a good Chicagoan. We're going to talk to him about Tony La Russa. We did get an update from the White Sox on Tony before today's game from the Sox following a medical evaluation this morning. Chicago White Sox manager Tony La Russa now is scheduled over the coming days to undergo additional testing in Arizona by his personal physicians. His absence from the club will be indefinite pending the results of these evaluations. Bench coach Miguel Cairo will continue to serve as acting manager in La Russa's absence. Like Herb was saying, acting managers, that record is going to count towards Tony. Miguel's not starting his own record, but he did get his third win as acting manager over the past 2 years. So what was Miguel Cairo like after today's game?
He was pumped, actually. He was pretty happy. I think he said something along the lines of like, Tony told him when the game's over, take a deep breath, kind of a sigh of relief. And you could tell he was, not feeling the pressure because he talked about how much he likes this challenge, but, he was intense. He was getting into the game, and it was a close one, obviously, and one of those ones where any move you make could have the game go one way or the other. So I think he was feeling the intensity of this game, and he was happy to breathe a little bit afterwards and certainly smile because they won. But guys, Miguel Cairo's second win, not third. He had the Field of Dreams game. He managed in a game against Texas last year, which the White Sox actually lost. I know the release yesterday said that he had won that one, but the White Sox actually lost that game that he stepped in for Tony last September. And then obviously last night he lost too, so he's an even 2-2 after this evening's win.
My bad on that. I totally thought they won that game in September.
Elvis Andrus played on the 2011 World Series runner-up Texas Rangers team with Mitch Moreland, Ian Kinsler, Adrian Beltre, Josh Hamilton, Andy Chavez, Nelson Cruz, Michael Young. But the 2022 White Sox, is the most talented team he's ever played for?
That's what he said. And you got to remember, too, talent and results are two very different things. But I'm most concerned about you starting that list, no offense to Mitch Moreland, but starting that list with Mitch Moreland. I mean, you had Mitch Moreland and a bunch of all-stars. So, again, no offense to Mitch Moreland. But
did you even name Nelson Cruz?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
He did, yeah. I was curious about the order that you put that in there, Herb. But, listen, I asked Elvis, after the game, you've only been here for a little bit, but does this team look to you like a team that can make a run here, that can go on a winning streak and close this gap, which is already down to 5 games after going up to 6 games yesterday? And he said, absolutely. He said 100%. He looks around the clubhouse just like all these White Sox players have been looking around this clubhouse all year and going, we got the talent in here. We got the players in here to do it. It's just a matter of doing it. So obviously no great shakes or no great statements, I should say, can be made from beating the Royals by 2. But it was a nice day for the White Sox to be able to win this game, especially in the wake of the news on Tony La Russa pregame.
Yeah, before we get into that Tony stuff, I'd like to stay here with the Elvis. I like the positivity. We did get a super chat from Stefan Bardo, so shout out to Stefan for the super chat. He asked, basically, why do I have a deep feeling this team is going to make a run just to lose the division by 2 games? We talked about the final 9 games and how important those will be for the White Sox and how we think it will probably come down to those 9 games. But how do the White Sox at least stay in this division till the end, right? How do they at least crush Stefan Bardo's dreams at the end of the season? They still need to be in the division by the end of September or October with the lockout pushing the season back. So how does Elvis Andrus and the White Sox take that talent, or how are they saying they're going to take that talent and try to be competitive the rest of the way now that they're 5 games back of the AL Central?
Yeah, by doing that. You saw what they just did tonight? They need to do that a lot. And I think that's what Lance Lynn was kind of talking about after the game too. Is like, hey, pitching was good, offense hit some home runs and gave us enough runs to win. Defense was very good tonight, and and so that's the kind of thing we need to be doing. We need to start doing, because they haven't really done that on a consistent basis all year long, as everybody well knows. So they need to do that again. 2 home runs from this White Sox team, and 4 runs was able to do it. There are plenty of games where Lance Lynn or any starting pitcher would have turned in a performance like they did today, which, by the way, was a terrific outing by Lance Lynn. And the offense would have given them 1 or 2. And who knows what the result of this game would have been had that been the case. But ball go far, team go far, and the ball left the yard and a couple of times, and it helped to build a 4-run total, which again is nothing to shake or nothing to for anybody to go out and start a parade over. But for this team to be able to do that tonight, that's the kind of game they need to be able to do a lot. And against a team like the Royals, especially, as we've been seeing all year long, they've kind of struggled no matter who the opponent was. When they've got these teams that they should beat, they got to beat them. And they did that tonight.
Did Miguel Cairo or Lance Lynn talk about taking out Lance Lynn after the 7th inning with only 91 pitches thrown? I thought ultimately it was the right pitch right decision at the time. Did any of the guys talk about that? I know the big bastard want to stay in it as long as he can.
Well, yeah, I brought that up to Miguel after the game. I'm like, hey, we've been hearing since the second he joined this team how he's going to fight anybody that tries to take him out of the game. Did you have to have a little argument with him or something like that? And he basically said what you just said, which was, he wanted to, it was kind of a no-brainer to let him go into the 7th inning. And then once he finished that off, he felt like that was a good stopping point for Lance Lynn. The offense kind of made that decision for him, or at least made the decision look good had it already been made, by kind of having a long inning there. They forced a pitching change after just 3 batters. So it had been a while for Lance to sit around after having, to my memory, I believe it was a 1-2-3 7th inning. So he was just awesome tonight, and that's the kind of thing that the White Sox have gotten plenty of times from their starting pitchers this year, but need to keep getting from their starting pitchers if they're going to do what Elvis Andrus thinks they can do and close what is now a 5-run gap, or a 5-game gap, in the AL Central standings.
And then I want to go to Elvis just real quick because Herb said don't tweet it when it happened. I want to know your stance on this. Our guy Wayne said it in the chat. Elvis left the building. Is it corny or not to tweet that after an Elvis Andrus home run?
Well, I'll say this, it's literal, and so it is right there, but a little low-hanging fruit for me. I'd like to, try to think of something a little bit more creative. And if you're an Elvis Presley fan like myself, I'd like to think that I could scan for some sort of deep cut that would work a little bit better. Of course, the first thing that came to mind, Men in Black. Are we Men in Black fans here? The Tommy Lee Jones line from that movie, Elvis ain't dead, he just went home. Maybe something to do with that home run. Elvis ain't dead, he just went home. But, that's always been a favorite line of mine from that movie. So, listen, if you want to tweet it, go right ahead. It seems a little cliche for me, so I'm going to see if I can explore some other options.
Since it was the first one, I didn't mind being a little bit corny with it, all right?
You and thousands others on Twitter.
I'll start. I tried to beat Scott Merck into it, and I don't think I did. Merck had the fleet fingers in that.
He
one.
might have had that one copied and ready to paste. Who knows?
Probably. Hey, I don't blame him. Again, I was ready to tweet it. Merck's just been saving up drafts and watching Dallas. Just like a good beat writer does. I want to go to this afternoon, the announcement with Tony La Russa that he will be out indefinitely. What more have we learned, and was there anything new told to you pregame from Miguel Cairo, or even postgame, if there's any newer update about Tony?
Not much. I mean, everything basically that we know was included in that very short press release. Basically, what's happening is the White Sox are going to let this testing take place that Tony is going to get done in Arizona with his personal doctors. They're going to try to, have information. And so I don't know if I can blame them for that. I definitely see the argument of, getting somebody out there to talk about this, specifically Rick Hahn. And he's the guy that talks on all these very important matters for the team. But I also understand you don't want to go out there and have a 20-minute press conference about what's going on with your manager when you might not know what's going on with your manager, and B, that information can change. There's a reason that this absence is being described as indefinite. It is not just because it could drag on for a while, but it's also because it could be wrapped up fairly quickly. All the things that are possible, I think, are things that we should keep in mind right now, and that's why it's a great idea not to speculate about what's going on. Obviously, there was the report from USA Today's Bob Nightingale that pointed to Tony going to see doctors about his heart, the very serious thing, and we want to make sure that Tony is doing well, and that he will be back with this team, just because it means that the health issues are moving in a more positive direction. So that's what we would like to see. I'm sure you guys both agree. It is just right now very limited information, whether that be because they're waiting for the whole picture to be complete, or they just don't know what that information is quite yet. But surely in the coming days, once those tests are taken care of, we're going to have some more information, but there's no exact timeline on which we would get that information.
Sean and I were discussing, it looks like Lance Lynn has upped his usage of his curveball today. Two questions there. Did he speak about mixing up his pitch mix today, because usually he's fastball all the time and with a little curveball or changeup in there, slider thrown in there? And secondly, it looks like he's fresh, missing all that time early in the season. It looks like his arm is really fresh. Did he speak about his stamina right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody kind of expected a little bit of a slow return to form after the way his preseason and early season was derailed because of that injury. I mean, you got to remember, not only did he miss much of spring training, but then he misses the first 3 months of the season, or the 2 months of the season. So, this is not a normal year for him. And perhaps, the timeline in which he is now feeling good is reflective of a normal season timeline where he would get into things in the earlier months of the season. So it is something that I think a lot of people anticipated would be an issue, but it looks like it's maybe been resolved. He's got a nice streak of starts now where he has been very much himself, and that is good. That is something that the White Sox need, as I mentioned, moving forward into the final month of the regular season here, as they are still in a division race. In terms of changing up, kind of the approach, maybe you'll remember this was a team that he faced in Kansas City not too long ago, and they hit him for a few home runs and chased him out of the game. So I think he was maybe probably thinking about that and trying to make sure that he didn't show them the same things that allowed them to beat him the last time. Certainly it worked in a big way today.
And then I do want to know a little bit more about Luis Robert, because he was plugged in the 9th inning as a defensive replacement, but still not in the actual lineup and not on the IL. So I did see you tweet out that Miguel Cairo said it was day-to-day. Can they make him designated fielder?
I mean, I think you're seeing that kind of. I mean, obviously you can't play 9 innings without coming to bat, but you're seeing them trying to utilize his workable talents right now in the best way that they can. You saw him pinch run here. I believe it was that on Sunday that he pinch ran, and you saw him play the field tonight in a time where they needed to protect what was then a 3-run lead. So Luis Robert, as we all know and have been talking about his entire career, can impact the game in so many ways. You want to be able to have him go out there and run down a fly ball if it's the difference between a win and a loss. You want him to be able to score from first or second base if it's the difference between a win and a loss. Because remember, when he is healthy enough to play in all facets, those are still things that he can do, that he does to win games for this team. He can't do that with the bat right now because it hurts when he swings. But the unfortunate part of this is that it is just, whenever he feels better, he'll be back in there, and they don't really know when that's going to be. They show up to the park every day hoping today will be the day, but they can't guarantee it at all. Meanwhile, they're going to try to squeeze every little bit of helpful baseball that they can out of him, even if that is very short and very sporadic, as we've seen the last couple times he's been plugged in there.
Have you guys been able to speak to Luis since he's been in the clubhouse for the past couple of games, since he's not been on the injured list?
I am not sure. We have not spoken to him the last 3 days in which I have been here. Perhaps they talked to him, whether it was those first 2 games of that Arizona series or in Baltimore. I'm not sure, but I don't remember if I was sure at some point. The last 3 days he hasn't spoken. But listen, I understand why people are seeing this as odd, and it certainly strikes as a little bit odd. What I think this is, and I'm not sure if I brought this up to you guys the other day, maybe on our off day show, but it's the depth at the minor league level. It's the depth in AAA, and I think right now the White Sox would rather have Luis Robert make a game-saving play in center field if he can't, 1 day out of 10, than have Adam Hazley up here in case 3 other guys get injured and Luis doesn't get to impact the game at all. And I understand that that's frustrating because people say, oh, you shouldn't play a man down. What if the situation arises where you run out of guys? The guys that they would call up to take the spot of an outfielder on this roster is not as valuable as Luis Robert missing only 8 or 9 games instead of 10, a full 10.
And I guess that's where my frustration with this team, I wish they added to the depth, just because, you even look at Project Birmingham and how
they did add to the depth. I mean, Adam Hazley is an outside addition. I mean, Adam Hazley is a guy they got in the offseason. I mean, it could be worse. They could have not made that trade at all, and you could have been picking from. I mean, I guess it'd be Mike or Adolfo, right? I mean, it's not a great situation. But here's the thing, too: they have 5 guys that they play in the outfield. So is calling up another outfielder just to take Luis Roberts' spot, you may never even play the guy. And I think your thought, and everybody else who's complaining about this, is probably just like, oh, but what if you're playing, you want to take advantage of all the rules and to be able to, what if this were to happen? Right now in the outfield, in the White Sox outfield, there's not a very high percentage chance that you would need that player. Well, and I'm not saying that's a defense. I'm just saying that is the reality.
I agree with you that the reason he's still up here is depth. Absolutely. And Luis Robert still seemingly is above, a hurt Luis Robert is still above, higher on the depth chart than Adam Engel is. I mean, Adam Engel not even getting defensive replacement, not even getting at-bat. So, I mean, he's just kind of sitting on the Sox bench right now. But I'm just saying, like, all of their guys are currently either tied up in Project Birmingham or they're all quad A guys like Adam Hazley, Mark Payton, Mike Adolfo. So I just don't think that they did enough to help this playoff team because, again, you're not sure. I mean, you're not going to plan for a Luis Robert injury. And I think that they didn't have enough to help out or supplement this major league team. I don't know. It's frustrating. That's all.
And the last thing I got for you, Vinny, and I know the White Sox like to have a little fun. You got the Thor's hammer if a bullpen guy strikes out the side. You got the Randy Moss jerseys for both offensive and defensive players. But today, I was watching the Vaughn video in the clubhouse, and Diekman was born and raised in Nebraska. So you're thinking maybe Kansas City Chiefs, maybe Denver Broncos, maybe even Dallas Cowboys. He had a goddamn Packers helmet in his locker. Was he getting punished? What's going on with that?
He's got a Nebraska Cornhuskers one, too. So I'm guessing one of them is his pro team and one of them is his college team there. Herb, you grew up in Chicago. I'm sure you have multiple people that were Packer fans just to get under everybody's skin, yes. Right? I mean, think about how old Jake Diekman is. He's probably around the same age as I am, I would guess. That was the heyday of Brett Favre. And if you were watching TV and you wanted to root for a winner, you weren't going to pick the Chicago Bears when you were a kid growing up in the 90s, that's for sure. And you were probably going to lean into the Packers. Now, I'm not saying that I would ever do such a thing. Come on. You've got the monsters of the Midway, of course, who will happily disappoint you every fall. But
Joe Montana in Kansas City. He had John Elway in Denver. He could have chose better. Closer, too.
And yet. But yeah, there you go. So I do find it funny that here in Chicago, the White Sox locker room is decked out with Vikings jerseys and Packer helmets. How about that?
That's ridiculous, man. It's absolutely ridiculous. I do want to ask a little bit about the Andrew Vaughn stuff. We saw that Gavin Sheets said he saw about the Tony news on social media. Andrew said the same thing, that he saw it on Twitter. And then Lucas said that he saw it on the scoreboard before he entered the game yesterday. Has there even been a talk between the team about what happened with Tony? What have we heard anything about that? Because you mentioned it. Rick Hahn, I believe, hasn't spoken since the trade deadline. So we really haven't heard from any White Sox outside of the players and Miguel Cairo who have spoken in their normal times pre and post game, right?
Yeah, Miguel Cairo said that he didn't, tell the team after the game last night, what Tony was dealing with, I guess, not maybe super specific, but that he was going back to Arizona to get these tests done. And then he said that he probably would have a chat with the team over the next few days about this Tony situation, perhaps also waiting for more information and waiting to see how long that absence might last before, making a big move like that. certainly one of the stranger elements of the last 2 days has been what you just said, that the players were finding out the way they were finding out. You would think that they would be aware of a team announcement coming down or something like that. But I will say this to throw this information in there. This is not the first time that a Major League Baseball player has heard about big breaking news, without, being informed by the team or something like that. I can remember trade acquisitions or something like that, where you go to interview somebody and they're like, "Oh, we did that. All right, good job," kind of thing. So it's not necessarily uncommon, to be quite honest with you. But it sure was, part of this story the last 2 days.
Yeah, and I mean, there's even the Christian Vasquez moment from the trade deadline earlier in Houston, where he's talking with the media on the field, and they're like, "How do you feel about getting traded to Houston?" And he's like, what?" And then they pull him off. So yeah, I totally get that. I just wondered. I mean, there was still an hour. They made that release at about, I think, 6:10. It was about an hour before the game, so I was just surprised that there wasn't even like a little bit of a heads up or like a meeting that they were like, "Hey guys, Tony's not going to be here today. Miguel's going to be the acting manager. Let's get after it." But it seems like that didn't happen, but we'll see what more news comes from this, and obviously, hopefully, we wish the best to Tony La Russa in his recovery, and hopefully he's back in the White Sox dugout soon. That's Vinnie Duber. You could read his piece about Tony La Russa's absence and Miguel Cairo stepping in. A lot of good stuff about Miguel Cairo not being Tony La Russa in that piece, which I thought was great. So make sure to check Vinnie out on Twitter at Vinnie Duber, and check out his recent article at allchgo.com out. Thank you, Vinnie.
All right. Good night, guys.
Good night. That is the CHGO White Sox beat writer, Vinnie Duber. And again, you can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber.
And a couple guys are asking, where's Jake Berger? Jake Berger's out. And they had an update today from our guy Jeff Cohen down there in AAA in Charlotte. He's on the IL, cleared today to do some defensive drills, but still not swinging a bat. Maybe a while. So he's out for a while. Just like Luis Robert. He can do defense. He can't do offense. I mean, it's usually the opposite for Jake Berger.
he's and I do appreciate Brems and Melissa saying Vinny's the bomb, and thanks, Vinny. I should have told him about Vinnie La Russa, the new persona that I gave to him. I want to tell you about PointsBet Sportsbook. They're counting down the days until football season kicks off with a new offer every day until the season kicks off. From now until September 8th, PointsBet's Power Hour. Unlock a new daily offer from 12 to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Sign up for PointsBet now using code CHGO to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. And don't miss out on your chance to get daily access to free bets, boosted odds, and so much more now through September 8th. Want to let you know about our PointsBet pick of the week. College football is back in the swing of things. So, Steven, what does that mean?
Oh, are we talking about the one we talked about on bets?
What are we talking about,
We are
Steven?
hammering Boise State's money line this week.
We are hammering Boise State's money line on Saturday night. Boise State Broncos, Oregon State Beavers, up in Corvallis, Oregon. The plus 120 Boise State Broncos on the money line. I love plus money. I think this is a great bet. They're a great, well-coached team. They got a former linebacker as their new head coach. This is a very good mid-major program. I like Boise State plus money going into a kind of weak Power 5 teams school or home stadium. I am down with Boise State. Let's go Broncos. That's where I'm putting on my money this weekend. So download the PointsBet app today and use code CHGO to take advantage of this limited time offer. Again, use code CHGO to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. And don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO to download to sign up and take advantage of this limited time offer. And if you or someone who has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER for crisis counseling and referral services. Herb, we love when I get lost in the ad read.
Their head coach is Andy Avalos. Mm-hmm. The weather dude from Channel 5?
That's why that name sounded familiar.
I get Andy Avalos, man.
It's a different guy. Different from the weather guy. Yeah, the
weather guy used to do weather and owned a restaurant in the suburbs. Now he's coaching out in Boise State. Man.
He retired.
Andy Avalos guy is done, man.
Andy Avalos was around for 33 years.
I mean, he's still with us, but yeah.
But I mean, like he retired after 33 years about a year ago. Yeah. So that man's been kicking his feet up in Boise, watching other Andy Avalos kick some ass on that blue turf. So shout out to that. Every day you learn. I had no idea that that was why Andy Avalos was sticking out in my head. I do want to talk about something now that August is over. We have seen August Abreu come and go, and it was an okay August from August Abreu. Let's go through the numbers because we've talked about it a lot. 2014 is when August Abreu started. His career started. He had 2 home runs, 16 RBIs, and slashed .376, .466, .475 for an OPS of .941, and we can just go through 2015 an .839 OPS, 2016 a .1061 OPS, 2017 a .964 OPS, 2018 a .1056 OPS, 2019 a .1002 OPS, 2020 hitting 11 home runs, being the MVP, having a OPS of 1.061, 2021, 10 homers, an OPS of 1.043, and then 2022, 2 home runs, same as 2014, 16 RBIs, same as 2017, but 333, 390, and a 405 slug. Easily his lowest slugging percentage in the month of August. Next lowest, 475. He's only had 2 with a slugging percentage of 400, and his OPS 795. We love seeing that on base percentage be that high, 390. He's had 8 walks in the month of August. A 333 average is great. I think he'd be 4th in Major League in the month of August for hits. But the power's not there.
Not there, and that's very disappointing. I mean, to say 795, which is above average for any Major League Baseball player this year, is disappointing, is ludicrous to say, but also that is. He had a subpar August to his standards. So we were very hyped for it because the August started off really right. I think he hit 2 home runs early, and we're like, all right, August Abreu is here. And that was it. It was grand opening, grand closing for August Abreu, and a bunch of singles. But that's not what the White Sox pay Jose Abreu for. They pay him for those extra base hits, and especially the ones that go over the wall. And it's just disappointing. I mean, it's a symptom that's permeating throughout the team, so not just Jose Abreu. This team largely does not hit balls over the fence. They've had 111 now for the season after hitting, 5 in the last 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, they've hit 5 in the last 2 games. That's been good to see. I mean, Elvis Andrus turning and burning on that one was awesome to see on someone just recognizing a fastball and just being able to flip their hips like that. That was great. I loved Stephen Nicholas's kind of flabbergasted look when A.J. Pollock hit an opposite field home run today. That was great. It was great to see Gavin hit those 2 home runs, but 4 of the 5 home runs, 2 from Gavin Sheets, 1 from A.J. Pollock, and 1 from Elvis Andrus. Like, Andrew Vaughn, where you at?
Yeah.
Jose Abreu, where you at? I understand Eloy had 1, but Eloy, where are you at? Like, these are not the guys that you should be relying on for power.
If you're
maybe Gavin.
I mean, he's been in the lineup. August Abreu has been in the lineup every day in August. And for him to hit only 2 home runs in any month is ridiculous. But for him to hit it in his special month is piss poor. I know he's not trying to hit home runs, but there's got to be something to it. And everybody looks back and talks about Frank Menachino, fuck the home run. As we've highlighted, that was said about something specific and it's taken out of context. But something's happening with this White Sox team where they're not seeing the ball and not being aggressive on hitters counts. And I was watching Brian Kenny on the MLB Network yesterday talking about how the White Sox have one of the highest chase rates in the league, but also they don't walk any and they don't hit for power. If you're going to have a high chase rate like the Atlanta Braves do, at least hit a couple over the fence. The White Sox are very low in home runs and very low in doubles because they don't hit balls that are center, middle, in pitchers or hitters counts. They're chasing balls that the pitchers want them to do, and that's why they pretty much struggle with bases loaded because pitchers need to know, or they only know, that the White Sox will chase their pitches, and ground them into double plays and get out of the inning quickly. So Jose Abreu, being the leader of this team, only having 2 home runs in the month of August, is a failure. Well, I'm sorry to call him a failure for this month, but he is.
Well, it's. I mean, I don't think it's too harsh to call him a failure, just because again he's had an OPS over 800, and every other year in the month of August, this one just came a little bit short. But I want to go into the full 2022 stats because you're not wrong. I mean, the power has absolutely fallen off in 29 games in 2022 in August, 123 plate appearances, 111 at bats, 37 hits. Again, very, very good, but only 4 extra base hits. 33 singles. Okay? A very valuable piece to any team. He is still hitting 333, 390, 405. But the main thing is 2 doubles, 2 home runs, only 12 runs batted in. The K to walk ratio isn't bad, 24 Ks to 8 walks. But again, it's mainly that power. And, you talked about the great thing from Brian Kenny. Absolutely the fact that they are chasing as much as they are. They're not walking. They're not being that team. I mean, Josh Nelson, I think, brought it up on Twitter Spaces today. You'll see a guy draw a 9-pitch walk, and then the next guy's first pitch swinging. And I think part of it, too, is they're really not understanding what the ball has done. Jose Abreu has the highest opposite field hit percentage since 2017 in his career. It's at 26.5%. In 2019, it was up to 26, and then 2017, it was at 27.7%. The White Sox, as a team, pushed the ball to the opposite field, tied for the most in the major leagues at 27%, tied with the Philadelphia Phillies. That's the main issue. You're not walking. You are only hitting singles, and you putting the ball in play is good, but also you have a slow team.
And you hit a lot of ground balls.
Exactly, and you're hitting a lot of double plays. So if you get a single, the next ball that it's a double play kind of erases it, right? So you're not really able to move the line without putting your team at risk of getting out of the inning, right? Like, the great thing about a single, it could drive in a run, right? If there's a guy on third base and not a runner on second and third, the only way a walk's driving in a run is if the bases are loaded. But still, like, a walk also won't lead to an out unless you're, who is that, Leury Garcia getting picked off?
At third base?
Third base in Colorado?
Oh,
man.
God, it's giving me a headache right now. Golly. That's another thing. The White Sox are dumb on the bases. They get thrown out at home, which they did again today because they had the goddamn contact play on with the runner on second and third. So there's no reason for you to go anywhere. You have no chance to be forced out at home. Ball was hit solidly right to the shortstop who was playing in. And Josh Harrison runs right into an out. Like, what are we doing? What the hell are we doing right there? It's just dumb base running mistakes like that all the time. The Leury Garcia one, the Yohan Moncada, Adam Engel one that led to the 8-5 triple play, the first ever in Major League history. They're a dumb baseball team. And so if you're not hitting the ball, and this is one of the main points that I think Joel Sherman made in that piece, is that the White Sox weren't that good last year as far as fundamentals and base running, but they mashed. They hit home runs, and they made their mistakes minimal because they scored many runs. They had Yasmani Grandal OPS in over 900. They had Yohan Moncada getting on 38% of the time last year, even though the home run wasn't there. He was a pretty good, reliable switch hitter, and the glove was great. So they can't do that this year because no one's mashing.
Well, and I mean, Andrew Vaughn's doing his damn hardest. I mean, Andrew Vaughn should have had a double, and Paul Correct brings up, what about Vaughn getting thrown out trying to get a double? Can we not credit him for a little bit of hustle here? You're watching Andrew Vaughn run for his life. This man is running like Herb trying to beat Yasmani Grandal's, 90-foot split. He is doing his hardest to get into second base. What I think of Andrew Vaughn is he is the kid that always got picked last in gym class, but everyone's surprised that he's a good athlete, right? He's not the fastest, but he can do everything well. He's a good baseball player, good basketball player, good football player, probably decent hockey goalie, right? You could put Andrew Vaughn in any situation, and I think that he would be able to succeed. Now, you put him on a track and field, meet, he's not winning. If Leury did that right now, I would be killing him right now.
You're not wrong.
That's not true. If he hit a ball that went all the way to the wall, off the gap, Leury Garcia would be in at second base because he's very fast and he'd be safe. But if you are going to lead off the inning like that, I don't mind you hustling. It's a White Sox player trying to hustle and get an extra base. I don't hate that. Michael A. Taylor made a good play, but we've also seen Michael A. Taylor this year make bad plays in the outfield. I don't mind that. He's just too fucking slow.
Yeah, I actually agree with Paul Correct. I know it's shocking. Me and Paul usually are opposed. But I agree with him. You know your speed. Stop trying. Stop trying to do extra. You know that, it doesn't take a necessary great throw to get him out. It was a good throw, not a great throw. Still, Michael Massey, pride of Illinois, had to dive and get him out, and he was out by a good portion. So you know your own speed. Stop it first. Once you see that the guy fielded the ball correctly and he's about to throw it in, stop. Go back to first.
And Alex saying, Sean, it's okay to admit your bias towards Vaughn.
You are. I'm kidding.
He is my favorite current White Sox. But also, if that was my least favorite White Sox,
I'm literally wearing the shirt.
If that was Leury Garcia,
I'm literally wearing the shirt.
What?
Your favorite White Sox, and you disrespect my man Apiece here?
Yeah, he's my favorite. He's my favorite White Sox.
Okay.
He's my favorite White Sox. I didn't say Herb's favorite.
No,
White Sox.
I'm saying him or Cueto. Andrew Vaughn, Cease, Cueto.
Andrew Vaughn, Cease, Andrew Vaughn, Abreu, Cease.
Wow,
Tim Cueto.
The disrespect
to who?
To everybody. I would say
What?
Cease, Cueto, then Andrew Vaughn.
The disrespect to the man who won an MVP 2 years ago.
It was a long time ago. Tim said he's 30.
Geez.
I mean, White Sox Tom said he's 35. As if that's an excuse.
I guess that's the thing, too, from Tim Tam. The difference is Garcia's awful and Vaughn is actually good. Andrew Vaughn does get a pass because he's good at baseball. Your Leury Garcia isn't hitting a double to the wall.
He's hitting home runs to
Andrew
get
Vaughn
a nice $16 million contract.
Is hitting a double and getting thrown out at second base.
Andrew Vaughn hit a home run last year to get a $16 million contract.
He didn't hit too many, especially in August and September. He had those weak legs, and that's probably why. Hey, they told him not to run, out those bases, and that's why, because he's just too damn slow. Our guy Jake Flanagan had a point a little bit earlier in the chat.
Our general manager Jake Flanagan still in here,
taking time out of his day to check out the little CHGO White Sox podcast. And Jake said maybe you'll get September Abreu and the Sox go 20-12 down the stretch. Highly unlikely, but not impossible. Okay, maybe impossible. I think it's impossible. I'd be really surprised if in the next month the White Sox were 8 games over 500. I just don't see that happening. There's some, credit to the weak schedule, but I don't believe in this team enough to be 8 games over 500. I don't think they've had that good of enough of a month yet this year.
I don't think so either. I think they've been in 500 like 3 of these months. It's like we said all the time, and I was listening to Lawrence, Layla, and Dan Bernstein on 6-7 to Score, and they were saying, we keep on talking about the easy part of the schedule. Imagine other teams like Baltimore is like, the White Sox on the schedule? Let's eat. Come on, let's go. White Sox time. But it's Kansas City, Minnesota, Seattle, Oakland, Colorado. Seattle's the only team in there that's going to be going to the playoffs for the most part. Then you play Cleveland, then you play Detroit. And then Minnesota and San Diego to the end of the season. Those are not ass-kickingly great teams, but also the White Sox suck too. Right. And they're 2 games below 500. So the schedule is in their favor. Now they just need to play like the team that we thought they were going to be in April. That team hasn't showed up. And I don't believe they have a light switch to say, fuck it, turn it on. Like Elvis Andrus thinks they're the most talented team he's ever played with. Come on now.
It'd be great. And hey, Elvis Andrus, the 13th leadoff hitter this year for the White Sox that ties a franchise record set in 1976.
I guarantee we're going to break it by a lot.
Yeah, thanks to Chris Kampka for that one. Who's the next one? We've seen Romy, we've seen Yaz, we've seen Leury, we've seen Josh Harrison, we've seen Elvis, we've seen Andrew Vaughn. Is Gavin Sheets next? Jose Abreu, give me it. Give me Jose Abreu as leadoff hitter.
I mean, I am trying to think of who hasn't. You said Yaz batted leadoff already?
Yeah.
All right, so they need to get a guy that's going to be called up tomorrow because they get to expand the rosters, I think, by 2, a hitter and a pitcher. So
I'm pretty sure Lenin Sosa has already let off.
He already has?
Yeah.
But what if it's not Lenin? What if they bring up Oscar Colas?
They're not bringing up Colas.
Why not?
They're not bringing up Colas.
That would be a move that you should make because what the hell do you have to lose, Rick Hahn? What do you have to lose? Nothing. Absolutely nothing to lose.
But Colas has shown, at least so far in AA, to be a decent fielder. He's played center, and I think he's played right. So maybe
an injection of offense that maybe wasn't there. And maybe he slows down in major leagues, which he probably will because it's a much tougher league than AA. But why not? Everything else hasn't worked. You're not getting a lot of production from your outfield right now. Luis Robert is going to be on the IL forever, or not IL forever, but never playing correctly. He's got the Vinnie Rodriguez pinch running and defensive replacement in the 9th inning. That's all he is. That's his career. We went from MVP votes from us beginning of the season to Benny Rodriguez.
And making $12 million doing it. Lenine Sosa has led off. Luis Roberts led off. Andrew Vaughn's led off. Moncada's led off twice. Harrison's led off 3 times. Romy 3 times. Leary 4. Mendick 6. Pollock 27. And Anderson 79.
Oh,
so
you have maybe bring up Adam Hazley. Or Hazley, whatever his name is.
Purple Haze. But
I
I don't know if he
guarantee
bats
he's on the team.
leadoff.
He's batting him leadoff.
Again, I'm calling for it now. You see the numbers. Why wouldn't a guy with an OBP of 390 who's hitting 333 be your leadoff hitter? Abreu for the top of the order. Let's go. Come on. He's always hustling. He's not that. He's faster than Andrew Vaughn. He's faster than Grandal. He's not the slowest player on the team. He makes a hell of a lot of contact. Can work accounts at the top of the order as well. Could set a franchise record. It could be a historic year for the White Sox with 14 leadoff.
And I think Dan Bernstein said it correctly. Like, you have, or was it, I think maybe Josh Nelson on his Spaces today. He said, you have the loyalty of Jerry Reinsdorf. You should take advantage of that loyalty and know that you're never getting fired. So do some things out of the ordinary in this last month. Don't just keep on doing the same thing you've been doing for 5 months and hoping and praying that that team's going to show up. Break glass. Break the emergency glass. And go and bring up Colas and say, kid, I'm sorry that we're starting your Major League career right now and we're putting a lot of pressure on you, but here it is. Here it is. I don't even know if he's on the 40-man, so I don't even know if he can go to the playoffs.
Not.
So that's probably, a moot point.
I'm pretty sure if he was called up now, he would be eligible for the playoff roster.
Okay.
But he would need to be added to the 40-man and then signed and moved up. That report I don't trust now because there was now another report. There was a report from some Mets reporter saying that the Houston Astros have reached out to Michael Conforto and offered a 2-year, $30 million deal to try to get him on their roster before the playoff series roster or the September rosters expand. However, John Heyman has come out and said that the Astros have not contacted Michael Conforto. So I don't think Conforto is going to be added to a playoff team yet. I think they probably just roll his free agency into 2023. And also, too, like, just going back to the Andrew Vaughn thing, why are we not blaming Daryl Boston for sending Andrew Vaughn? He knows how fast he is. Andrew Vaughn was running as fast as he can. It's not his job whether to know he is fast enough to get to second base. That is the first base coach's job.
Playing baseball, you probably don't listen. You can't hear your first base coach.
You're looking at him.
You're not really looking at him. You're looking at the ball. That's what out of the box, you're looking at the ball, and you're watching the ball. You're not looking at Daryl Boston, who's at first base. You're looking to touch the bag and ground it if you're going to go to second. So I don't give Daryl Boston that one. I will give him a lot because he's terrible at his job and accused rapist, allegedly. But I will not blame him for sending Andrew Vaughn. Andrew Vaughn's got to know his own speed. Some people need to know their own speed and not run outside on the gravel.
He doesn't know his own danger. Andrew Vaughn just doesn't know how fast he can be. And going back to Jake's comment of 20 and 12 in the month of September. In April, the Sox were 8 and 12, May 15 and 12, June 12 and 15, July 16 and 11, and August 13 and 16. So I just don't feel it happening. Maybe they win 5 more games than they lose, but I just don't see it happening. After today, the Sox are 64 and 66. And 5 games back of the Guardians in first place. The Twins fall to 1.5 games back after their loss against the Red Sox. So the 68 and 60 Guardians are in first place. The Twins are 67 and 62, 1.5 games back of the Guardians in first place. And the Sox are in third place, 64 and 66, 5 games back. We will be with you tomorrow. It is going to be the White Sox versus the Royals, and we'll see if the Sox can win this 3-game series. It's going to be Johnny Cueto versus Daniel We tried so hard to figure out how to say this because we're just double doubting ourselves. Megden.
Yes, that sounds right.
But there's an N, so it's like Mengden. There's too many consonants.
Change your name.
Mengden.
Take that G out of there.
The N, G, and D doesn't work for my brain. So Daniel Mengden. All right, that's the guy that's pitching. Former Oakland A pitcher. He's a right-hander. I don't know how long he's going to go. He has had starter stamina before, but this might be a guy that they try to get as many innings as they possibly can out of him. It is a right-hander.
Who was usually an opener?
He's just kind of bad. Okay. He's just kind of a bad starter. He hasn't made a start yet this year.
That sounds like
for Kansas City's, but he's made about 50 in his career.
That sounds like 6 2/3, 2 earned, 17 strikeouts, versus the White Sox.
And hey, Jake Flanagan coming in here like Matthew Cortese saying Cueto no hitter tomorrow, which I don't know.
That'll be real hard for him.
Hey, if it's true, Jake, you had it first. Anyways, that's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox postgame show. That is Herb Lawrence. You can follow him on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. He's the CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. I have kept him and Herb and Steven here way too long, so let's wrap this up. And we will be here at 12:30 tomorrow for your pregame.
We could see Jake Flanagan
versus Mendigan
tomorrow.
We will see Jake Flanagan. We'll see the Cubs people. Ugh. They'll be in here for a day game as well.
I'm good. I'm kidding. I love them all.
And we will have a post-game show for you to recap the entire series and tomorrow's game. White Sox Tom asking about another watch-along. We'll try to figure something out. I don't know if we'll be doing
one. We haven't had one.
We
got washed out.
We tried to do one, and there was at
Guardians.
least 2+ hours of content for them. So we will definitely try to figure out something for a watch-along. And hopefully we'll pick like the good game. You know, I mean, especially if that Minnesota stuff gets real tight at the end of the season, you'll probably see a watch-along. But
that's during the week, too.
The Minnesota one? Is that Wednesday?
Those are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 7, 7:10, 7:10, and 3:10.
Hey, Matthew Cortese is saying you can do one on Tuesday. Hey, only 19,000 people showed up today to the G-Rate. So there's a lot of people, a lot of Sox fans at home probably waiting for some live watch-along content. So we'll get on it, all right? We'll talk to you tomorrow for pregame at 12:30. Appreciate all of you guys for hanging out with us. Thank you to Stephen Nicholas for hanging out with us and producing the show. And thank you to Fleetwood Mac for their 1979 album, Tusk. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Go Sox.